We're back to the Neil Haley Show. I'm with Grace Lynx Jenkins and her cat. And
Yes.
we're really excited. So I love the cat bombs. And we're going to talk about her book, Sight. So now, before we say you're soon to be author, that's over. May 26th, the book comes out. You got to be excited. 25 days till it happens. And the book is called Sight. So let's talk about it a little bit while just going behind the scenes of Sight. How are you, Grace?
Yes, I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm excited to be back. I am thrilled. I'm beyond thrilled to have gotten this far, to finally have published a book.
I'm excited for you beyond belief. So let's talk about, first of all, the putting together of this book, the time it's taken, because a lot of people don't talk about that whole writing process.
Yeah. So it took me a good 3 years to write it. It actually started in college, around the last year of college, and then from there I wrote the outline down, and then there were some breaks of writer's block between, but overall it was that 3 year period of constantly writing, finding out what worked, what didn't necessarily work, details.
Absolutely. And once you're doing all that, the details, putting it to life, because you are an English major. So you're a lot different than some authors because you have that, pedigree. That process for you, it was like so much fun because you knew exactly how to do it. So it wasn't that real pain that some writers go through.
Yeah, it was a little bit easier, I think, to structure some things in a way because at this point I had already taken a fictional writing class. I had already been writing in high school at this point. I had been engaging with other English majors and I had seen them write, and I was reading a lot of literature at the time, which really influenced mine and my friends' writing. If you go back and look at writing that I did in college, you can very much tell what I was reading at the time because it had the same flowery descriptions that a lot of your older authors have.
See, that's a talent. You got to say, if you're already getting there
Mhm.
at your age, a Gen Zer able to do this stuff, imagine when you're writing for 20 years. So this is a great start to your writing career to get this going and get discovered because you put a lot of time in your writing. You're not just willy-nilly coming up with the book.
Oh yeah, no, it was a whole entire process. When I sit down, I've already discussed how I see it in my mind. I'm basically writing down what I see, but it's a very slow, methodical process where I can sit there and be stuck on a sentence for a good few minutes and then come back to that sentence because I didn't necessarily like how it was flowing. Because part of it is that you have to kind of figure out the flow of your words. You want to figure out how much description should I give. The most important parts are obviously characters and having a consistent plot. Because if you have a plot that doesn't make sense, or if you have flat characters, then it's not necessarily going to turn into the best story. It's always about wanting to give your best and then wanting to do even better each time and wanting to improve as time goes on.
And see, that's interesting. The thought process you talk about, improving over time. It
Mhm.
doesn't, it's a process when you write something. And you talked about this when you're writing a short story to a regular story, you have a process to it. And when you came up with the idea of Sight, did it just come quickly or just you had to brainstorm and think about it and think about how you're going to write your first novel?
It was weirdly a mix of both, oddly enough. So I saw certain scenes. It all started with the one scene that opens up the book. I saw it, and then I saw an ending for it, and I was like, I'm going to write this story. So then I start looking at it and I'm trying to figure out, because originally the ending was actually going to be a lot darker than it is. Um, so over time, the ending changed. And then from there, it's kind of figuring out what goes in the middle. Because I'll have certain important scenes already laid out that I really, really felt, really loved. They just came to me. It's the laying out the middle part that's probably the hardest, because you're trying to get from point A to point B without sacrificing your characters and without sacrificing your plot. They're called plot holes. And you can write yourself into a corner in some ways, especially if you're writing a novel or a series. A series, I would say, would probably be the one where there's the highest danger of that. But the best way for me to have avoided that was to write an outline. Anytime that I'm not quite sure, go back to the outline. If I need to, reread the first few chapters.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting. Rereading the first two chapters and then going through and saying, is this where I'm going? And then the process. So when sight came to your mind, it came to your mind. Say,
Yeah.
okay, I have it. And I just keep going. The main character, that's the process. Name that main character, because next week we're going to kind of talk about more, but it's great. We talked a little bit about your writing process.
Yes. So the main character is Noah Amos. And his name came to me in that whole entire vision that I had when I was thinking about that scene. But Noah is this police consultant who tracks down serial killers by literally looking through their eyes. And it's a way that the police are able to catch these serial killers or murderers before things get out of hand. It's a way to save people's lives.
Oh,
And I thought about the emotional weight of that. And I thought, who is Noah? What is it like to be in this situation where it's obviously a very stressful job? You have all of these other emotional baggages going on, especially if you're absorbing the emotions of the people that you see through. You can be pulled into other people's sites if they have very strong personalities. So Noah has to deal with that. He sees other people who are censors, is what I call them, who are censors. He sees them struggling to cope with the emotional baggage that they are absorbing from other people. And he's also struggling with that. So you have this understood sense of empathy between censors that nobody really says out loud. And then on
yeah.
top of that, he's having to deal with all these other external stressors because he's got a job, he's got to pay
Yeah.
bills. Yeah.
A lot of different things. So people need to go to gracelynxjenkins.com, and that's links, Lynx, linksjenkins.com. And you're going to find information on the book and purchase the book. And we look forward to it soon. You'll be able to get autographed signed copies. May 26th is the date the book comes out. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
All right. You're listening and watching The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.